What's up, everyone? Let me get into my mode now. So I'm up here today. This is probably, I've been up in this office several times at TalentPlus. Is this the Central West End technically, or is this like a different neighborhood?
Yep, Central West End.
Okay, yeah. And you guys have an awesome office here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like it. It's like beautiful views of St. Louis. I'm trying to like paint a picture for everybody. But you can see the arch, right? If you get into a certain spot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm here with Sierra, my good friend. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So, you're actually going to turn the tables on me and ask me some questions about, I don't know what you're even going to ask, which I'm kind of scared about. So I don't know. I'm pretty good about thinking on my feet. So, yeah, but we're working together, with speaking gigs and stuff like that. So, I don't usually get to do a lot of, I've been on other people's podcasts and stuff, but with this podcast, nobody really interviews me. I'm usually interviewing other people and sharing like their story. So it's kind of cool to be able to share my story on my own podcast, right?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for doing this today, Wesley. You've got an amazing story, and we're super excited to welcome you to the TP family. As Wes said, we're excited to be working together on some speaking engagements to help spread the love and positivity to the St. Louis community and beyond. Most people in St. Louis know you from Treehouse Network Shop and your Strange House podcast and Wes and Friends podcast. But for those who aren't really familiar with any of your projects, the question stands, who is Wesley Hoffman?
Oh my God. How much time do we have? I'm really just a regular guy. I think, I could say of so many things that I'm into and so many things that I like, but I'm really just a normal person who, I was a boy with a dream. No, but I've always been the kind of person that wanted to do my own thing and to march to the beat of my own drum, I guess. And I grew up in a really small town, so I always felt like I was different. When you're in a small town, everything's very concentrated, and just as society does, you conform, and everybody kind of does their own thing. And I never really wanted to conform. I never felt like I was that kind of person. And, but I always liked meeting new people, and I've always enjoyed connecting with people and, learning about different interests that other people have other than myself. And I have my own interests too. I love punk rock and comic books and video games and pop culture and, learning about myself and my mind and personal development. But who am I? I like to think now that I'm a person who promotes love and positivity and connection, and a person who wants to help other people grow and share my experiences so that other people can grow and can learn more about, if somebody came up to me and said, started sharing with me all of these things that they learned and they had done something that I did, I would be like, okay, this is great. Like, I'm learning. I don't have to go through all the failures that this person went through because they're telling me how they failed. And I'm by no means perfect. There's no roadmap for what I've done in my life, but so I've had wins and losses, and I think that's part of. I'm a person who has a growth mindset, so I'm gonna learn something new every day. I don't know if that answers your question.
That was a broad one that I kind of threw in there. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. So, with the Treehouse Network Shop, the podcast, the blogs, you've become a local celebrity and influencer of producing really relevant content and questioning people's assumptions. And I think think, making a lot of very positive impacts on our community. So I guess, one of the things that I'd love to learn more about, and we've talked about this a little bit outside of this space here, but how did you come to, you've worked in a lot of different sales positions and creative positions. How did you come to become a serial entrepreneur?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think I've always had, when I was younger, I've always had some kind of like form of ADD. I just the way that I work and the way that I learn, it's hard for me to focus on one thing for too long. I want to move on. I want to do something different. I want to, I can get hyper focused on something and then go do something else and then come back to it. And again, I think it comes back to with a lot of these jobs that I had in the past, I didn't fit the mold. They're looking for somebody who fits the mold of what they want. They're looking for somebody who is going to sit there and make and who is comfortable and driven to make 100 phone calls a day and try to close these deals. And even though I tried to be that person, that's not who I am. I'm the type of person that I can do that for a certain amount of time, but I was always putting on a face. I was always putting on something different. I wasn't living authentically. I wasn't being genuine. And when I don't feel like I can be genuine, you can only put up that front for so long, And what led me to this path was I eventually got to a point where, having this kind of career identity crisis, I got let go from one of my jobs, and then I started networking. I started just going out and meeting people. That's what I'm really good at, is just meeting people and making a very quick connection by asking them questions, asking them about themselves. Networking is not about what you can do for people and how you can help, or it is about what you can do for other people and how you can help them. It's not what they can do for you. And once I kind of shifted that little paradigm in my mind of, oh, I'm not at this event to try to close deals with people. I'm here to just see how I can help them and connect them. And then I started to see, oh, people want to know me because I'm maybe the one person here that's willing to help them. And I've always had like the entrepreneurial spirit. Playing in bands was like a thing that I always did, but I was always a little afraid to try to step out on my own and get it going. So when I finally got my full-time job after that year, 2013, I had all these people that were reaching out to me saying, can you help me? Can you help me find a job? Can you help me find employees? And as I was starting to get more and more requests like that, I put together an event, and that worked. A lot of people showed up, and then I started to just attract more thoughts of how can I create more revenue streams, how can I help more people, and how can I provide more value. And that's really how it all started. And I'm constantly trying to think about that, is how can I add more value to the people around me, to the community? How could I be of service to more people? And the more I think about it, the more ideas pop up, and the more it just starts to happen.
Absolutely. That was very wonderfully said.
Thank you.
And it kind of answers one of my next questions, which is what inspires you to create content for your online and in-person audiences?
Yeah, no, that's good too. What really inspires me is my own experiences. I put something out on Facebook yesterday, a post, and it's just when I learn things through my relationships with my wife, or through business, or just through my own personal reflection, is why not share those realizations with people so that they can learn from too, like I was saying earlier. So that's really where the inspiration comes from. And I think for a long time I felt like what I had to say wasn't important and people wouldn't care. And now the more and more that I started to put it out there, I realized people have it. There's value in only what I have to say, but what you have to say too. So why not use your voice and share it with other people?
Absolutely. Over the past 4 years, you've done well over 46 to 50 speaking engagements. In your experience, what are the most valuable lessons you've learned about talking to a group?
As a speaker, I think you have to be engaging all the time. At the beginning, I think I was really good at keeping people's attention for 5 to 10, 15 minutes, but there's always like somebody in the back that's kind of like nodding off, So always being engaged, always trying to doing something to keep people's attention. And but also at the end of the day, I have a speech coach, and he told me that there's no such thing as a perfect speech, because somebody won't like it. And even if you have said everything perfect and you had this groundbreaking things to say, there's always going to be somebody that's not going to like it. So to not be a perfectionist and to just do the best that I can.
Awesome. So what are some ways that you found you're comfortable with, or really kind of get people engaged from the get-go whenever you go into a room?
Yeah. I try to be a little, I know this is like public speaking 101, but like I always try to tell a little story or tell a joke, no matter where I'm at. Maybe if I'm going to a little place like Springfield, Missouri, I've been there, I've done a lot of speeches there, or Lake of the Ozarks or something like that. Bring up maybe a joke about the lake, or a joke about, oh yeah, I went to that pineapple whip place. Have you guys been there before? And maybe just make a little bit of a few jokes and try to get people engaged. And I liked working the crowd a little bit too. So I won't single people out, but I'll pick somebody and I'll kind of like talk to them. And it's funny, you can usually get a pretty good read on somebody that's used to, they don't mind being singled out a little bit. So yeah, working with a crowd and coming up with a funny story or joke, I think helps a lot.
Awesome. In your blog, you talk about a book that's really inspired you called The Power of Now.
Yes.
And I've heard you talk about this book a lot and some of the really positive things you've pulled from it. You reference a specific quote: "Now is the only time we ever have had or will have." How has this book and idea influenced your life, an idea of networking?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. That is a book that I read. Actually, the universe had like pulled me towards that book several times, and I would meet people that say, "Oh, you should read this. You should read this." And one day I just decided I'm going to the bookstore and picking it up. And how has that affected, how I live and networking? I think it's just living in the moment. There's so many things, especially with social media and having smartphones at any information that we want is at our fingertips now. So it causes us to not live in the moment. It causes us to, oh, what's going on Facebook? What's going on Twitter? What's going on? Oh, Sierra emailed me. We're pulled in so many different directions to really bring 100% of your focus to the moment. And that there's a lot of beauty in the moment. And there's like, oh my God, I'm in this studio right now talking to, somebody I'm talking to Sierra from TalentPlus because like we're working together on this, and how amazing that is. And we're 17 stories up right now. That's incredible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it might sound kind of silly, but it helps you realize that even though we have all these situations, like, we might have debt and we have to pay these bills, and there might be a stressful situation waiting for in your email inbox. Or you might have family problems, somebody that you love might be in the hospital or might be sick. You can worry about those things, but in the moment, in the very like singular moment, everything is okay and you're fine. And it's that our mind is in another moment though. It's either before or it's in the past or it's ahead of us. So how that helps with networking is to be present in the moment with people. How often are we in a networking situation where people's eyes are kind of darting off, they need to go talk to somebody or they want to look at their phone, and you might only have 5 minutes with that person, but we have to be present and listen and share that moment with them. So I think it's really important. That book, among other books, has changed my life for sure.
Awesome. I love that concept of listening and active listening. It's definitely something that I think we don't see a lot of in just modern business dealings for sure, and just relationships and connections.
Totally.
Kind of building off of that, what is your most read book?
My most read book? I read this book a couple of years ago called Think and Grow Rich, which is like it's totally it's a business book, and it's very motivational, very inspirational, but it's also about just having the mindset of an entrepreneur and persistence. And I go back to that book quite a bit. I really like to, there's just certain parts that I might be like, oh yeah, what was that one chapter that I read? And that was also the first book that kind of thrust me into some of the consciousness expansion or like spiritual side of things too, was just because it's all about using your mind to essentially get what you want, not in a negative way, but in a very positive way. It's a very positive, eye-opening book. And it was written back in like the 1920s or 30s. So it was kind of ahead of its time. And it's some of the examples that he uses might be kind of archaic, but you could use them you could use an example like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or somebody like that they stayed positive, they kept the mindset, they were persistent, and they achieved what they wanted to achieve. So yeah, that's probably my most read book right now.
Awesome. What is the best failure? You mentioned this earlier. You talked about, how you kind of build on your failures and learning from other people so you don't have to make the same mistakes. What would you say is your favorite or best or most impactful failure that you've experienced that's impacted your life?
I would say my biggest failure was getting fired from my job in 2013. And why that was such a big like turn, because it was a turning point for me for sure in my life. But I learned that I was going towards all these things down this path that like wasn't right, and I feel like the universe pushed me to. You can't really appreciate everything until you've been humbled, until everything's kind of been taken away. And even though that was a job that I really wanted and that like I thought was right for me, it wasn't right for me. And that sometimes, even though I couldn't see it in the moment, I was like, this is going to lead me to a better thing. And that really would start the shift in my mind of, okay, even though this would seem like a really bad thing to a lot of people to lose my job, I'm going to take it in a positive way and turn it into what do I really want to do? Maybe that's the problem, is I never sat down and thought about what I really wanted to do with my life and what kind of job that I wanted. So, yeah, I don't even like to, I feel like sometimes failures are determined by us. You know what I mean? I don't even really look at it as a failure anymore. But it was, at the time it was, but I look at it as if something can be pulled from it in a positive way, is it really a failure? So
it's a great question.
Yeah.
Would you call that a learning experience?
Yeah, I would say learning. Yeah. There's somebody said, there's not wins and losses, there's wins and learns, but you learn, even a win is a learning experience. Oh, that worked. I learned that worked, and then you try something else and it doesn't work, and you're just learning that doesn't work. You're figuring out what works and what doesn't.
Awesome. If you could write a book about anything, what would it be?
I actually want to write a book, and I have started writing a book just about my personal experiences through life. And I've tried to write a couple books in the past that I've like gotten going, and I've kind of like lost inspiration because it's maybe been something that I've been interested in at the time, and then life happens and you get interested in something else. But I really just want to write more about my own experiences and personal growth and like personal development, because I'm learning stuff every day, whether it's through my business or through marriage or through friendships and relationships. And I want to share that with other people.
Awesome. Well, we'll be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
Once you're not busy changing the world. Speaking of which, when you're not busy changing the world, what are you up to?
A lot of time. I spend a lot of time playing music. I play guitar, and I have my own band, Wes Hoffman, Positive Punk, and then check me out on Spotify. And then I play in another band called Why Not. So I play a lot of music. I I like pinball. Over the last couple of years, I picked up a pretty nasty pinball addiction. I love playing pinball for some reason. I think it's just it helps me focus on one thing. I'm not thinking about my email and all these other things. And in a weird way, it's kind of like a meditative thing. It's like, oh well, this is giving me a lot of pinball games only last maybe 5 minutes, if you're good, longer if you're better, but like it's a little bit of an escape. So pinball, hanging out with my wife, hanging out with my dogs. I love nature. I like planning trips. I like going out and doing cool stuff, going to concerts, anything like that. Anything that's an experience, I'm into.
Awesome. So what is your favorite place to go play pinball?
I know all the cool places in St. Louis. So I go to Parlor. They have 4 or 5 pinball machines, and I play arcade games too, but pinball is like my main thing now. There's a little dive bar in South City called the Silver Ballroom. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just played in a tournament there last week. And then, but a hidden gem, if you're in the St. Louis area, is just across the river in Illinois, in Roxana, Illinois, which is known for Shell oil. That's where there's an oil refinery there. It's a very like blue collar town. There's a place called CP Pinball, and it's only open on Saturdays. It's $5 an hour, all you can play, and $20. They're open from noon to midnight, so you can play all day for $20. And so I have been sneaking over there for for the last like sometimes I'm the only person there, and they have 3 buildings full. They have like 80 some pinball machines.
Oh, wow.
So it's crazy. It's really, really fun. Yeah. And I like the creativity of the machines and all that. They have like one for every movie ever made. It's so that's the place to go if you really want to like dig your heels into some pinball.
Good to know, on the to-do list. And just before we get off here, tell us a little bit more about Positive Punk.
Yeah. So that idea just came from when I was in high school. I loved to play punk rock music, just fast, jump around, have a good time. And I'm a really positive person. I want to incorporate some of the things that I talk about on this podcast and in my speaking engagements and stuff into that music. And punk is kind of known for being like a fight the system, no rules type genre. And I like to think that I'm that way too, a non-conforming type person. So a lot of the music involves like stuff like follow your heart and keep your focus on the things you want to see happen out in reality, and savor the moment, that type of stuff. And when we do shows, it's very there's a lot of woes and hey-heys and stuff. So if you don't know the music, if you never listened to any of the songs, you would be able to sing along by the end of the song. So and it's a lot of jumping around. It's a lot of like just having fun. And I think a lot of people, when we played our first show, I think a lot of people were taken back because we definitely had some choreographed punk jumps, So yeah, we'll do another show by the end of the year. But yeah, and that's the music that I always had enjoyed playing when I was in high school and throughout like college in my 20s and stuff. So sometimes you got to go back to your roots.
Totally. And just kind of building on that a little bit more, you had an experience with the podcast and you're repping Vans today.
Yeah.
With your hat going on right now. I just, and a lot of your love for music, and I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about your experience of covering Warped Tour.
Yeah. So that was literally a dream come true. I have met so many friends through punk rock and the music scene and through Warped Tour. It really is like punk rock summer camp. You go there and you see all these people, and we had made so many friends that we got to meet through the interviews, or that we had met prior to Warped Tour, that were on Warped Tour. So it was so cool. This is the last year for the Warped Tour, for the full St. Louis run, and so last year I'm 35 and I got to go. It was so awesome to just be able to get the opportunity to go for 5 days and join the tour and see some of my favorite bands every day play. And just meet so many amazing people. Everyone has a story. Every band, every musician, somebody like JT from Hawthorne Heights. I mean, that guy has sold platinum records and, he's still out there doing it. And so it's really cool to be able to meet people like that and learn from their experiences in the same way that I'm able to share my experiences too. So I'm so grateful that me and my friends got to go and I think it was 5 of us and just, we had a hell of a time. It was awesome. It was so cool. If you go online, you can find a video from it, from like a recap of it. If you go to Strange House on YouTube. So, I'm just thankful that we worked hard enough to get the opportunity and that they let us go and tag along with them for a week. And I'm even more thankful that I have friendships from that forever. There's people that we met on the tour that I talk to all the time. Maybe not all the time, but if anywhere that I go, any city that I visit, and if I'm going to a punk show, I probably know somebody there because of Warped Tour. So that's really cool. That's the kind of life that I want to lead. So
awesome. And are there any strange talents that you have that you'd like to share with us today?
Talents.
Something that we wouldn't know about you.
Yes, I can play the tuba.
What?
Yeah, I played the tuba in high school. I grew up on a farm, so I can ride a horse too. I rode horses a lot when I was young. It's been a long time, but I have no doubt that if I got on a horse right now, I'd be able to ride it around and it would do what I say. So yeah, those are a couple.
So I feel like I learned a lot of fun things about you today, including your love of pinball, which I did not know about. But thank you so much for taking the time to share a little bit more. And everybody keep an eye out for Positive Punk and some awesome speaking engagements coming up.
But thank you for doing this too. This is awesome. I feel like, Sierra, we've gotten to know each other so well through this process. So, so thank you for being a friend.
Absolutely. Thank you.